Alright, so I apologize, but I forgot a simple step in the beginning where um, I have a package right off a source called script, and inside script is going to contain both the data, the tasks, and the main package, so that they're all within the same package and they can all access each other statically. That was a simple mistake on my part, but yeah, so you guys should just be able to right-click source, new Java package, and drag your tasks into it, your data into it, and your main into it. And you may have to redo your imports, not sure, but yeah, should be that difficult. So, still not sure what that's not working now. But I'll worry about that in a minute. Right where I left off is the location. So let's do public static location. Let's do W area for woodcut area. Okay, you know what? We're gonna make it a little easier to understand when we're reading it, so things don't get mixed up in the long run. I always like to be as specific as possible with my variables rather than call them X, Y, and Z, so that once you have hundreds, bear with me here. Alright, let's try this. It actually makes more sense. Here it can be private. Inside the traverse class, is it correlates specifically with it? Location. Come on, work. There we go. Yeah, make sure your enum is public. Jeez, yeah, sorry, that's not a burglar, that is thunderstorm. So let's hope I don't lose internet. 2019, baby. Let's call this, what did I call it? Woodcut area equals location. Area. Yeah, okay. And here, so this is gonna be traversal to the woodcutting area. So we're gonna do return. So we want this to execute if we are not in the woodcutting area. So for that it would be woodcut area dot get area dot contains and then players is going to get all the players, and get local is yourself. You're character in the game. So this is a little shortcut to, it returns your actual player object. However, from that it can break it down to the player's location itself. I could also just do, let me do this so that you guys understand it better. Get the position of your player. So yeah, if the woodcut area contains my player, then, or sorry, if it doesn't contain my player, then it's going to return true, which means it will execute traversal so that it will walk to the area until it gets to the area, in which case this will return false, which then it will stop walking to the area. So to walk, you use a movement class. So yeah, we'll do 1 second delay there, and you can always, let me show you guys something really cool that, for example, isn't in the tutorial. I'll get to more things that aren't in the tutorial in a sec. I don't know why I typed man. I don't have this equation memorized. Again, Google. Java random. Just kidding, jeez. Good old Stack Overflow. There's a different one that I like using. I think it's this. Yeah. Yeah. There's just a lot of comments in there, but we're gonna add a public static class to the main. Jesus, man, again. I need to stop speaking and type at the same time. I know it's probably annoying, but what do we call this? Actually, boop. Alright, cool. Static int random. So this is going to generate a random number between your minimum and maximum parameter that you pass to it. I'll just leave the comments in there for you guys, just in case you want to read it. Import random. I think they use util random for this one rather than math. Yeah. Sorry, I thought that was an int. Okay. Yeah. So this will return a random number between that number and that number, between min max. So with that, what we can do is, for example, this isn't really useful in a case like this, but instead of just returning 1,000 every time or 2,000 every time, which should be the sleep between doing something. For example, if I wanted to, like, I don't know, woodcut at random times rather than consistently at the same time, I could do main.randint and do 1 second to, say, 5 seconds. So this would then execute 1 second to 5 seconds, which I guess we'll just do to play around with walking. So then it's going to continue walking in this instance after I program it to the location every 1 to 5 seconds randomly. So yeah, walking is, like I just had typed, movement class, very self-explanatory as always. Here we have various methods like walk to randomize, set destination or set walk flag. You can read up on all these. Some of them do have the description filled out on the Java docs. However, I just like to do, we'll do walk to randomize. And this will walk us to a random location within our area that we have selected from our location. And with this, we just need to pass in our location. So this would be our woodcut area. Sorry. So that's our actual area. However, walk to randomize needs a specific position. So yeah, you have to also get the area. Forgot that. Woodcut area .get area is going to get the area, and rather than just the enum plus wrapper. So you do need the actual position. So for this, you can do get center, which will get the very center, which is kind of confusing. I don't understand how it would walk to a random location in the center unless it's specific tiles in the center that it randomizes. But this may be a bad thing to do as we're accessing WebWalker, and it could slow down the could possibly just cause lag with accessing the internet every time. But this is what I've been doing, and it's been working great for me. So if it doesn't work for you, maybe just do get center and see if it actually does randomize it. I haven't played around with that enough, but what I typically do is get tiles, which is going to get all the tiles in the area, which, if you don't know what those are, oh, does it not show it? I swear you could have. Oh, yeah, it does. So each little one of these squares that you see on my cursor are tiles in the game. So it's going to randomly, so we're going to make it randomly. I'm going to show you how to make it randomly pick one of these tiles in the area for it to walk to each time it actually walks to this, so it's not as predictable as it would be if it was just walking to the center every single time. And for that, so we're going to get all the tiles in our area. That's what this does. Gets the area, gets all the tiles. Walk to randomize. Get tiles. And tiles, here, let me show you. Get tiles returns a list of all the positions. So essentially all the tiles in the, a list of all the tiles in our area. And with the list, you can do the .get and specify the index of the list. If you don't know how list works, then just Google it. Like everything else, it's very basic Java construct, and I'm pretty sure Code Academy would teach you it. So I hope all of you know how a list works if you're writing a script. Not to scare you off or anything, but anyway, yeah. So .get will be the index, and we're gonna do 0 for the first element, or the first tile essentially, to we're gonna do random. So main.randint 0. So 0 will be the minimum value, so that will be the first value. And then for the last value, we just do, so here's where it's gonna get a little ugly. You can make a local variable for this, which I do recommend, but I think it will be easier to explain and possibly understand if I do it this way. So to get the length of the tiles, we just do this again, and instead of .get, we do .size -1. Again, very basic Java stuff. So that's going to get a random tile from the list, or position, technically from the list, between the first element in the list and the last element in the list. And I'm pretty sure this would already randomize it anyway, but that's just another way to do it. Alright, so that will successfully walk us there until until the location contains our player. Yeah. And next we have, what should we do? We did banking. Inventory is full. Let's do woodcut. Well, we're all here for it. So this again, that extends task, and implement. Jeez, I need to stop spamming that keyword. It's gonna break one of these days. 2013 Razor Death, still going strong. Spilled orange juice on it too one time and stopped working for a week and came back to life all of a sudden. Anyway, for now, let's come up with a validate condition. So let's think about this. So we want it to woodcut if the if first of all the location contains, how should we do this? Location data. See, this is why I wanted to put the location in the main so that we could access it from other methods or other classes. Okay, it looks like we actually were able to find it this time. I don't know why we weren't the first time. And here we make it public, static, and here all I'm doing is just moving it to the main so that we can access it from any of these classes rather than just traverse. I always like to do it so that we can use it more universally, which is what I was originally trying to do. And now here we just do, hopefully this will work this time. It should, I don't see why it wouldn't. Yep, main.woodcut area. So this is going to statically reference our main. Now it's starting to get ugly. This is when you make a local variable, but I'm not going to waste any time showing you how to do that. Very self-explanatory. Yeah, so now we can access main. So return if, nope, it's going to be positive case, main dot, what's it, what do we call it there? Woodcut, yeah, woodcut area. Dot contains, nope, dot get area. That contains players that get local, and so what that's going to do is, if we are in our woodcut area that we selected on the map, this will return true, and if we're, let's just make sure that, again, type in make. Let's just make sure that we're not moving, so movement, or players, is it players or movement? Dot is, dot get, dot is moving. So we're going to make sure we're not moving when we're wood cutting, because you can't move in woodcut, obviously. And there's this other method in players, or player rather, because .get local returns your local player, so yourself, called is animating. So we don't want it to start cutting another tree if it's already cutting another tree. That's what this is doing. It is animating. You're animating if you're already doing an action in animation, which is wood cutting, for example. So we want that to return true if it's false. If it's not animating, then it will cut. So if we're not animating, and if we're not moving, and we are in the location that we selected, we will execute our woodcut task. And now here's where we write the task. And you know what? Just to be safe, because we don't know if we're going to develop this script further in the future, I probably won't, because it's a woodcutting script, but just for, I guess, your knowledge, I always like to do things like make sure, since we have a banking task, make sure we're not banking. So we could always make another static variable in the main that sets a banking variable to true, which I do sometimes, and it can get ugly with all the variables. But here we could probably just do bank dot is open is false, so that then we're not banking. So that will never return. So we'll never go woodcut if we're banking as well. We should already be taken care of by this area thing, but who knows if one day we switched up the area to an area that had a bank in it, that could cause some issues. So rather safe than sorry. Safe practices of programming is always a good thing. Always good to handle any possible condition, even if it wouldn't be possible at this time, it could be possible in the future, and going back and adding to the adding more features to the code, or even updating things or fixing bugs even could spawn 2, 3 dozens more issues because you didn't do safe handling all your conditions. You didn't handle all your conditions. Yeah, so enough of that spiel. So here for woodcutting, how you handle that is a little more interesting, and that is with the scene objects class. Call it tree equals scene object. Oh, it's the other way around. Alright, scene object. So this scene object will be, like I named it there, the trees near you, so you can get all the nearest trees. You can pass in a comparator and get the best tree that your comparator condition compares it to. Yeah, you have various options here. Get at different positions, get the ones that are loaded, so all the ones that are on the map. You can sort them. Various and very complex, or not very complex, but more complex, yeah, ways to do it. But we're just going to do get nearest, and so we're going to get the nearest tree to woodcut, and this is where you pass in the ID or the name, and we'll just get the nearest tree. You could also do like U, or whatever you want to do. And whenever you see, let me go back so I can show you. Here you see the ... after int. So this can be either one or more integers, so it can be a single, likewise with strings, sorry, which is what I'm going to show you because integers is kind of confusing. Like with strings, it could be a single string or a string array. So for example, I could just do, or I could do, so we could get there's tree, comma, a U, that's not how you spell U. So yeah, it will get the nearest tree or U now, and assign it to scene object tree. And now with that, we do interact. So players, anytime you are gonna right click, or I believe if you can click on something in the game, and select an action or option, it will be an interact class, or sorry, not class, method, which player has access to. So players dot get local, which is your player, interact, and then you put in the action, and there's different codes, integer codes for the actions, or you can just do the actual name of it in game. Like if you're gonna equip a piece of armor, it'd be wear, I believe, and drink a potion would be drink. And it wouldn't be a scene object though in that instance. It would be a I don't even know what that is. Armor? Is there an armor class? Let's see. No, sorry, I'm dumb. It's item. Items. Oh yeah. For example, it would be like inventory dot get I am going off on a tangent here, but you would get whatever, get the first piece of armor, so bronze plate body, look at a little chaining here, and so that's going to return the item, and then with that you can interact and do what did I say, wear, and that will equip bronze plate body. that's just an example for it. Wow, my mouth is dry. Sorry for going off on a spiel there. It hopefully is useful. I thought it would be. That's why I spent my time going over that. So yeah, likewise for this, instead of interacting with taking our inventory, we're interacting with a scene object we call tree. And there are select classes in RSPeer which are not static. So scene object is one of them, and you do need to assign it from scene objects. Things, yeah, there are various things like that, but those you can just look at the API for. And interact, wow, I'm blanking on this. Sorry. I had a little pseudocode written up here. Not pseudocode, but an example code. Shutdown, it's called shutdown, of course. And I did see while looking at that, you probably saw it too, that I had a good practice is to have final variables, so private, final, and typically common syntax for final variables is all caps with instead of spaces, or you do underscores for spaces. So for example, just the we'll call it woodcut underscore action equals, and this is a string. What did I not cover? Come on. And then here, we'll pass in this. There. Yeah, so it's just a better way to organize things. And if you wanted to, if you had multiple of these, you could just switch up this one variable, and yeah, it's just helpful. And good practice. So this will, yeah, begin our wood cutting, and it will. It doesn't. I don't know why it's 10 seconds here, because it won't even. It will stop looping if it's animating anyway. We can just do 1 second. So I think now all we have left is drop. Let me make sure I'm not skipping anything. So woodcut task, traverse. Okay, so he traverses. Yeah, he doesn't even. I wonder if he made this tutorial earlier on because he passed in the bank location rather than just doing like I did here. The bank that open is going to get the nearest. Okay. So yeah, drop task. All right. So let's go to drop again. That's why I think scripting is very easy once you get the hang of it. Everything is set up in the same general format. So use there we go. Extends task again, and here we're going to let's just bank. Here's what we're going to do. So what did he set up banking for? I don't even know what we want to use banking for if we're going to drop. I don't know if we want to bank or drop. It is full. What? Yeah, see, this is a. You don't need to do that. Oh, yes, what I should do is deposit all except the X. But I don't even think we need a bank. I don't see a purpose. I guess it's just an example. So yeah, you can either pretend we could put in X here deposit all except the X, other than the X, and yeah, so this is set up to where you can bank if your inventory is full, or I'm going to remove this for now, or I guess let's just do this, and or we could set up a drop class or task, which will drop the logs if our inventory is full. That's what he does, right? If the inventory is full. Yep. Oh yeah, so he lets you set the option. Okay, that's what I thought. I was gonna do that for banking, but let's put banking back to how it was. Sorry. So in the main we can have, I'm gonna check that out in a sec. So we have the location, and we can also do public, static, let's call it should drop, and we'll set it to true. So what we will do is banking, it will be, and should I'm just going to do main dot. What? Okay. So if main dot should drop is false, we will bank, and if it's true, we will drop. Here. This is more helpful. And then with this we could set up, I will, the next video in the series will be on setting up the UI, the GUI, and we can make that so that you can have a J checkbox, which allows you to take a checkbox if you want to drop, and if you don't want to drop, then it will bank all the logs that you get from woodcutting. Yeah. Except this would be drop is true, and inventory is full. Yeah, and now we execute. 1,000. Oh, it's just 1,000 is default. I would also, another tip is I would not go any lower than 500. Usually I don't even go lower than 600, because if you do something low like 300 or 100, it can break the task, and could possibly skip loops because it's just too fast for it, and it messes things up. So let's keep it at 1,000. So it's my go-to. If I'm not randomizing. Yeah. So here we need to access all the logs in our inventory first. So inventory dot which is the item array. Yeah. So here we can get all of our items in our inventory. So let's see. So this will return an array of, or what we need to do is return an item array of all of our logs. And for that we use a thing called a predicate. And a predicate is essentially going to loop through all of our items in our inventory and compare it to the condition that we set. And if it passes the condition, it will add it to the array essentially, and it will pass back the item array to us, which we can then access and do whatever with. So it's really neat. It's kind of a shorthand way of doing a for loop in a way, or a loop, I should say. Yeah. So for this, I'll just do generic variable, since we're doing it inside of a method, or inside of, yeah. So this is the general syntax. X is not equal to null. Always have a null check when dealing with objects, because trust me, you want it. You run into various occasions when you get null pointer exceptions because you did not have null checks. So first condition is if X is not equal to null, so it's going to run through all the items in our inventory and make sure that it doesn't return null for first case. And X dot, we can do get name equal string, sorry, and it's Java equals, you know what, let's just do contains, so I don't think any other thing is going to contain, well actually it might, yeah, it probably will, equals logs. So this is going to return an array of all the items with the name that are not null, and it will and have the name logs to us. So now we have the item array, and with that item array we can loop over, you know, it's gonna look a little, actually I think that's how he does it, but I don't really like that way. We're gonna split it up into two separate pieces. I know there's a shorthand way of doing this, but just so it's easier to look at and comprehend while I'm typing it, we're going to do it this way. So, like I said, logs, we'll call it. Wow, I am sorry. Wow. So, logs is going to be all the item logs in our inventory, and that's an array. And then you can just loop over every single. We're going to do, let's just do log. No, it's L. I don't like that. Sorry. Items. Item. There we go. This is an enhanced for loop. If you don't know what it is, Google it. In items. Nope. And if, what is it? Right there. We don't need an if. We just do item interact. So then each log item that we retrieve in the form of our item array, I don't know why I was doing that, we are going to interact with, and I believe that's just called drop, yeah, drop. So interact as in right click, oh, has to define it. Let me make sure, just so I'm not setting you guys up for failure. Drop action, drop, yeah. Yeah, so again, you can make it's good practice. I don't really do it for something simple like this, but if you're going to use it multiple times or in multiple locations, make a final variable, final string drop action equals that, and then you could just pass in drop action. Yeah, same thing with logs. I'm not going to show you the X. It's just the same thing. Won't waste your time and mine. Yeah, this will drop all the logs. Again, here, let me just show you the shorthand way really quick. Interesting. Oh. What? Ha. Ha. There we go. Damn parentheses. What is this, functional? Okay. Yeah. So now we have it set so if when the inventory is full and we have the variable in the main should drop is true, we will drop all the items in our inventory. And one more thing, just so that we don't, this is a good intro into the sleep class, or time.sleep. method from the time class as well. If we're looping through all the items and spamming drop as fast as a for loop can run, depending on your processor, it will inevitably cause issues. Again, just like with looping too fast, the game is very dynamic, and your internet speed can affect it as well. So it can skip drops on certain items, and it can run into all sorts of issues. So, long story short, RSPeer is this super useful time class, which is essentially thread.sleep, but it's time.sleep, in which you can pass in, it's just like the return in milliseconds, so this would sleep in between each drop 1 second, or you can do between 1 and 2 seconds, so this would be randomly between 1 and 2 seconds. Or there's something super useful, since the game is very dynamic in nature, sleep until, which isn't really useful in this instance, but I've used this many times. I probably have used this more than time.sleep. What this does is, what's a good way of putting this? You use a Boolean supplier, I think is what it's called, and that looks like this. So then you pass in a condition. So let's say item dot item, yeah, that should work. Let me think. Item equals null. Yeah, okay, that'll work. So basically, to explain this is, this will sleep until this condition returns true, and it will keep evaluating this condition every 50 milliseconds. I can specify how often I want it to threshold value. So if I pass in a third parameter, the threshold value, so this will, instead of 50 milliseconds, it will evaluate this condition every 500 milliseconds. And the timeout is the amount of number of milliseconds that it will be attempting to evaluate this condition, and if it passes this timeout value, so if it's greater than 1 second, it will stop sleeping essentially and continue onward. Yeah. And also, there's super useful. Again, I've only used this one I've only used a few times. For duration. So instead of threshold here, it will be duration. So if item equals null for, let's say, a second, change this to 5 seconds. So if this can switch back and forth, for example, very frequently, then it's good to use sleep until for duration. So that means this condition needs to evaluate true for a whole second. If it's true for half a second and then goes back to false, it will keep sleeping until the timeout is reached. And you can always, another little tip, it starts making this thing look nasty and yeah, nasty on my mind, but it actually does return true if the condition is evaluated true before the timeout is reached. Otherwise, it returns false. So that can be very useful as well. So this would be a good time to intro. So let's say, yeah, this will work for this. So if item equals null, which would mean that the item no longer exists in your inventory because actually, no, this won't work because it's not in our inventory, it's in an array. But, for instance, let's say you have a condition that, or let's just switch it back really quick, sorry. Yeah, sleep until item equals null. It's not really useful. But okay, we're just gonna do this for example. I can't think of a useful thing for this because it's so basic. But so what we can say here is, what RSPeer has is a. Let me see if I can show you really fast. Back to it. Log.find, log.info, and log.sphere are the main ones you'll be using. Log.find will display a green message down here, just like welcome Dr. Scatman. Log.info will display a white message, and log.sphere will display a red message down here, and you can always make it look like expanded rather than just show one line by going debug expand logger, which is what I like to do, especially when working with scripts. And this is just essentially just like your system.println for the console if you're programming in Java. So it's super helpful since this you can't technically debug since you're running it through the RSPeer client. You have to throw in a bunch of logs. So log.find will say log dropped, and that will be spammed. But you know what? For demonstration purposes, we're going to do that. It will be spammed because our inventory is going to be full and it's going to be dropping multiple logs, so this will be printed multiple times. Yeah, what does that leave us with? So we have dropping, walking to the location, wood cutting, banking if we want to, or dropping. And yeah, so let me finish fixing this submission of the tasks. Also, I like to include, and I think he does it in the tutorial, log.find for script started, so you always know that it's started. And for example, for the other version, there's log.sphere script stopped. Boom. Now, the real question, oh, maybe it's, there we go. Just had to fix the import. Alright, so again, based on priority, I don't know why that's tabbing. Interesting. Whatever. New, I don't think this will really matter because we have it set up the way we have it set up for the order we put it in. New drop, new traverse, and yep, there we go. That looks more normal to me, at least. Let's see the last one. Wood cut. Is that the last? Yeah. Okay. And well, let's see what else the tutorial has really quick. But first, let's make sure that we can build successfully. Yep, build completed successfully. Make this full screen for you guys. So we submitted the tasks. Here he made a final task array, which you can do. However, I like to just keep it all in one area so I can look at it like that. I don't know, it's preference. Here he shows the enums. Oh yeah, here, I'll show you that. That is a cleaner way to do it. Did forget about that. For example, if you had multiple trees, which you wanted to cut down, and because the trees do vary by location. Obviously, as you know in RuneScape, there's only certain trees per location. So I assume there's logs in the, or trees, generic trees in the, sorry, I'm spelling this, generic trees in the location I selected. So, but to set up specific trees in specific locations, you can go back to location, and let's add in another this dot tree. What is this? Oh, it's string, yeah. String dot dot dot. And again, dot 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 is either one, or you can have an array. Yeah. Trees. Dot trees. Let me get a sec. Equals trees. Private string. Nope. And for example, in our area here, we have one. Yeah, okay. So here we can pass in tree. And we do need, let me show you guys the other way of doing this. Generate getters. Yeah, now we have a way to get the trees. So for example, if there's just trees in there, I could have it as just the trees, which is what the dot 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 is for. Or if there's U's in there as well, I could just add that as well. Capital Y, because it's what it's called. And yeah, and then you can back in woodcut instead of dot get nearest. You can do main dot. Oh, excuse me. Main dot woodcut area dot get trees. There you go. So now it's gonna be more dynamically set up and cleaner, in my opinion. Yeah, so it's a good thing to show you guys. Glad I found that, noticed that. What else? Yep, you're setting up the Enums. Yep, that's what we just did. Okay, and then it looks like he just goes onto the UI. So, you don't technically need a UI. That's more for, well, I only personally make a UI if I'm going to release it to the public or have other people use it than myself, because I can just simply go into my code and tweak it and rebuild it and restart the script. And that's what's really cool as well is with RSPeer is I already have one open. Wow, I just closed one that was open. Alright, so now we have compiled the script and it should be all set up to go. Oh, you know what? I just started reading this now and I don't like the sound of that. I don't want to think. I'm gonna really quick. You didn't see that. This one is another very common one you can find online for a random integer. It's just basic Google search. Yeah, so then I don't have to worry about reading all that shit and initializing it. Anyway, okay, in case that caused an issue. Yeah, so we built it, and in the other video we set up the project structure, so the artifact was automatically built in the scripts folder. So now we should be able to run it. We're in a free-to-play world, and we named it wood cutting. Yep, right there, the name in the script meta is going to be the name that you see in the script selector. And select an account. And looks like he is trying to walk to the area. There we go. Oh. Yeah, the web walker is being updated, and some of the methods are becoming depreciated. So I believe this is one of them. There have always been issues around lumberage with web walking, especially in this house here. So I think you're going to be able to see a little bit of troubleshooting live here. Let's see. There's traverse. So instead of walk to randomize, well, first let's try, instead of double randomizing here, because that could be causing an issue. Let's just try getting the center. And here's a demonstration of what's nice is I stopped the script, and even if it was running and I rebuilt this, it would still be running on that older version, but I would just have to stop the script. It would still successfully build the artifact. Typically, if you're running the jar file, it won't let you build it. However, that's not the case with RSPeer. So now I could just stop it and restart it, and it would run the updated version. Is it banking? No, I said banking false, right? Structure, yeah. Oh, okay, it's walking out the back. Okay, so this looks like it was just an issue because, well, yeah, it's working now. It looks like it was an issue just because I was double randomizing it there. Or that, yeah. And of course, you can always make it equip the X too. However, let's do that. Equip it ourselves. So it successfully walked to the wood cutting area. And what is it doing? See, this is where logs come in handy. So again, some live troubleshooting. I always think that's where I learn the most is watching people troubleshoot, or troubleshooting myself rather. So we'll say here, walking to area. Good old copy paste. Import wood cutting. Sorry, I should have had these logs in the first time I showed you. Or first time I formed these classes. Passed by me. Log.info. And info is going to be the white text ones. Banking. Log drive is fine. Okay. And lets me build it while it's running. Don't know what's going on here. Could be an issue with wood cutting is what it seems like, because it definitely isn't the location. Yeah, so it's wood cutting, so it's an issue with wood cutting. Let's double check here. I think it didn't all check out there. Interesting, I'm fighting a guy. Let's not have that right now. Come on. Stop. So I think could be there. Was this supposed to be a predicate? No, I'm pretty sure it was other options. But yeah, let's do it. This is a predicate. So instead of just typing in the nearest tree, I think the better way to do it, which makes more sense now to me after reading that, is to first of all check to make sure that have it be a predicate so that we can make sure that it's in the area that we selected. Yeah. dot get name dot equals tree. Oh, do we have a variable for that? Yeah, we did. Dot equals that's the issue. Okay, yeah. So, what is it called here? Where's this full screen? Okay. Woodcut area. Woodcut area. Interesting. Guess that wasn't imported. Wonder how it was working up top there. Anyway, not get area. Yeah, okay. So it could be dot equals woodcut area tree 0. So that would be tree, I believe, is the first one. Yep. And then we could always do it again for, or do the same thing for input 1 for you. There are various ways to do this. I'm sure this is not the most optimal, but this is the first thing that came to my mind. Yeah, so that should work now. I'm pretty sure at first I was just checking to see if it equaled the array, which is not. Which is obviously not gonna work. Come on, baby. Walking to area. Why are you still walking to the area? Interesting. Okay, now you're wood cutting. Are there no oaks? Or trees, I guess. Maybe that's not in the area since I selected a very strange area. Let's go over here because we're fighting. And also this, I think I selected the area over here as well. Jeez. Alright, here's what we're going to do. Get out of here. Fuck, of course. Okay. There we go. Alright, let's see what's happening here. Oh. I'm interacting with myself. Sorry. This is tree. I remember I was explaining something and typing at the same time, and that came up. Yeah, so you want to interact with the tree, not yourself. Because you can't chop down yourself. That would be an issue. That'd be a whole nother game. Yeah. And there you go, one little simple fix, and now it's working just fine. So there you go. Sorry this video took so long. I wanted to explain things as thorough as possible so that anybody with any level of Java programming experience could potentially get started with writing scripts for RSPeer. Yeah, so please subscribe and like the video and all that good stuff. And the next video will be released hopefully tomorrow on creating the UI, the user interface, so that you can customize things such as the location, the type of trees, if you want bank or drop, or maybe even add something in so we can avoid fights or world hop away from fights, because I don't know why this same fucking guy keeps... Alright, you know what, I'm done with this. Alright, thank you for watching. Sorry it took so long again. And I hope this helped. Yeah, take care.